Hello everybody, it's time for a market update. We're going to do a residential market update, just kind of get you up to date on what's going on in our fast moving markets here in DFW. I'm going to just give a general overview. I'm not going to go county by county really on all the details, but I want to give a general overview. I'm going to talk tariffs, interest rates, and just everything that's going on in our market. There's so much going on, and it has been, I feel like, for 3 years, ever since they started raising the interest rates. But to kind of summarize it, so we have several dynamics going on. The market is still it's in the middle of a shift right now. And so the important thing to you is to understand what's happening to pricing. So my last market update, last month, I told you I expect to see 10 to 20% market correction in pricing year over year. And this month, we've really seen flat to 3% when you look at all housing, that's existing and new construction. So we are seeing corrections in most markets right around the 2 to 3%. And what we're seeing is that inventories are continuing to rise. Inventories are all-time highs in DFW for 2-3 decades since we've seen this kind of inventory. And then on top of that, transactions are still low. And so what we're seeing is less demand and more supply, which is pushing us into a shifting market where we're shifting from a seller's market to a balanced market now, and it even is becoming more of a opportunity for buyers to make offers. We're seeing more homes go under contract, significantly under list price because of the seller fatigue. Homes are sitting longer, and that's called seller fatigue. When homes are sitting longer, sellers are sitting out there, and they may have been trying to sell them the last couple of years, still trying to get COVID prices. They're getting fatigued and understanding that the market's just not going to give it anymore. And so seller fatigue sets in, and then that's when transactions begin to happen. And so it's really interesting to look at it from how things are shifting and why I really believe you've got to have a 10 to 20% correction in order to get the market back to normal transaction volume for DFW. The number one is affordability. It's just not there in DFW right now, and the buyers are kicking back. But when prices are adjusted, we are still seeing multiple offers. When a home goes on the market and it is priced right, there is a good chance that you'll see multiple offers. So buyers are still looking for homes. You still have 100,000 people moving to the Metroplex. Demand is there. That's the good thing for DFW is we're insulated, and that's a good thing for you as a homeowner in DFW. While we might be looking at a little bit of a correction in prices, we're not looking at some huge fallout of prices, and you're still going to retain the majority of all the price appreciation if you've had a home over the last 4 or 5 years. So tariffs. When we look at tariffs, how do tariffs affect what's going on right now? That's the big question. Does it affect your home for existing homes? The pricing? Directly, not really, because your home's already built, so there's no extra cost associated with your home. New construction, it definitely can affect the cost of new construction, depending on materials, etc., whenever they're having tariffs put on top of the existing cost of the materials. So resale, which is existing homes, the way it affects indirectly is that you lose buyer confidence. And so what happens is anytime there's uncertainty in a market, a buyer does this, they freeze. And so we have seen a little bit of that where we saw a big pickup in transactions last month, but this month, end of last month, we really have seen things kind of slow down, and really the only thing attributed to is the tariffs and interest rates spiking again. So when I say spiking, they're not spiking back to 7%, but interest rates are bouncing between 6.8 to as low as 6.5 is always the lowest we saw it. And so when you factor in the fact that tariffs and the uncertainty of the market selling off like they did today, all of that affects demand. While I still believe demand is good, you're losing a few buyers. So you're losing some of those buyers. And so that does affect your home could sit longer. You might have to take a price correction in order to move your home, just depending on your scenario. I do believe if you're a seller, I just want to be honest with you, if you're a seller, if you're not okay with making an adjustment of price and then making it up on the purchase, especially if you're upgrading. If you're upgrading, you're going to really make it up on the purchase. If you're not okay with that, then you may be best to take it off the market and wait a year. I honestly believe all these trimmers that we're feeling right now are going to be worked out over this next year as new policies put into place, and you're going to be looking at a better market a year from now. So take it for what it's worth. Sometimes it's best to just take a step back. Say, hey, to your spouse, I think we're good here for another year. Let's just sit here another year. Sometimes that's the best advice you can have. So I want to really enunciate the 10 to 20% correction in prices. So what we are seeing is new construction is making adjustments, and it is so interesting. So we've seen in Rockwall County, prices adjusted downward 17%. In Collin County, prices adjusted downward 9% last month. Prices fell 9% and 17%. So when prices decline like that, what I always go and measure is what happened to demand. And so that price decline triggered a 90% increase in transactions for new construction in Rockwall County last month that is pending into close into this month. 90% increase. So demand is there. Prices needed to adjust 17%. Like I said, that 10 to 20% is going to really kick off transactions. And then in Collin County, it adjusted 9%. Transactions jumped 44%. So again, we're in a great market. The standstill is pricing and affordability. And I really believe it's going to be, barring any huge catastrophe in our economy, it's going to be prices, and that would maybe even accelerate it, but they'll also lower interest rates if we end up in a huge recession. That's why I say that. But it's going to be pricing that gets the market moving again in DFW. And every time I see it, over and over and over, when we see 10 to 20% adjustments in price, homes move, contracts happen, because DFW is the best place to be in the United States. So if you need any help, commercial, residential, property management, we would love to serve you. Have a great day. Thank you.